Welcome to the Occult Rejects. We are two former secret society members who were determined to show the public the truth that occultism has been purposely integrated into every aspect of society, from politics to music, Hollywood, and science. This is used to manipulate the public as a whole and to protect the fake elite. The symbols are used all around us to affect world events and public perception, our behavior, and even our future. We will translate the occult so that you have eyes to see. We reject their agenda to give you the tools to save yourself.
All right, welcome back to another episode of My Third Eye. Tonight, I am very excited and very honored to bring you the Occult Rejects. These guys, they're the biggest fakes and hacks in the game. If you listen to some certain podcasts and act like they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, well, these guys actually do. And if somebody hears this and you know who you are. But anyway, like I said, I have New York Patriot and Lux from the Occult Rejects on. I will start with Lux. If you want to introduce yourself, and then New York Patriot. I know my fans already know kind of who you are, but at least plug your show and plug the Occult Rejects. And I'm going to turn it over to two amazing guys that have opened my eyes to the world of secret societies and a lot of other topics, to be honest. And we're going to talk about some magic and how fake Q is and how everybody fell for some dumb shit.
Including us.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Lux and New York Patriot from the Occult Rejects.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah. Lux here. I started a podcast with New York Patriot after leaving the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. And a lot of crazy stuff happened while I was in there. And I just wanted to sort of blow the whistle on stuff that I had seen when I was inside, because it really is way more prominent in society than people think that it is. Occultism and magic affects everything that really is in society right now. So felt as though we needed to be sort of the Paul Revere's of getting this information out. So we did, and it's been incredible ever since. It's just, we got an awesome fan base. We've got incredible support. So it's been awesome.
Definitely
awesome.
We definitely got some awesome fans, I'll tell you that much. I was actually talking to one yesterday that I was asking them to come on our show because we wanted to start doing stuff with our fans. It's a fan that has posted stuff for us and started threads on Reddit. Amazing fan. And she said no, she wasn't comfortable with coming on just because she's nervous. But she had asked, what made you ask me? And I said, well, there's two reasons. I said, one of them, it was nice that you actually reposted our stuff. I said, but the people I'm asking are really the ones that are always hitting me up with questions. I said, because that's exactly what we want people to do. Yeah. I said, you don't understand something, hit us up, ask us a question, and question things in general. We have a lot of fans, and even like other shows that I've spoken to that sometimes are a little weirded out about what we talk about because they don't understand it. And I understand that, but that's when you ask questions. I mean, right now, I'm wearing a fucking stupid fucking hat. You know how many shows I've done this shit on? And not one fucking person that's ever had me on has ever asked me, what the fuck does that mean? Why not? Why? Right. Why is it so hard to ask a fucking question? And I was going on with her about that, and she had said the same thing I think you were saying earlier. A lot of people start to look at these shows and look at them as unapproachable.
Right.
And I said, well, a lot of them are. And I said, at least the people I know, I said, so, we appreciate when the fans hit us up and ask questions and wonder, because that's what we're having these shows for. We just want to inspire different thinking.
Free thought.
And we have a lot of fans like that, and I truly appreciate that the most, for real.
Yeah, I would rather have the amount of fans that we have now, well, not even fans, I'd say just listeners, but people that listen to us, now, because everyone is really intelligent, everyone's really smart, curious, funny, and it's just a really great group of people to be around. I'd rather have that than 100,000 followers who don't know shit and just click the like button,
And I gotta thank you guys. The Occult Rejects have sent some of your fans my way and started listening to my show. And like you just said about reaching out to fans, I had one through Telegram reach out to me, and I interviewed him yesterday. And
That's
at first he was a little nervous, and but I used my good empathic skills and my new podcasting techniques, and spun my little magic and calmed him down. And hey, it's just you and me, bud. We're having a conversation, and before you knew it, we were sitting there talking on so many different topics, and it's great because I know how nervous I was the very first time I was interviewed, and it was by you, Patriot, and I was like so fucking nervous because I was like, who cares about what I think? You know what I mean? That's kind of how I've always gone through life. Nobody gives a shit.
I still
what
think
Ghost
that
thinks.
a year later, and people are still listening to us.
Yeah. So what do you guys want to start with?
I don't know. Did you want to? Oh, that's right. I did have an idea, and this was really because of other people. Believe it or not, this actually is something that came up. I don't want to get into the topic, but because of all the whole drama and things of stuff that might have happened a while ago. A lot of people might question.
I just called it out.
No, I know, but I'm not trying to get too particular. Start stirring up the pot again.
I hear you.
But I've even had some either fans or other shows say that they're so confused about Magick. One, they don't know what to think about me, myself, or they don't know what to think about what I'm saying. And I think, a lot of people get confused or maybe don't understand how me and Lux see it. Maybe we've never said it outright, but I mean, I know speaking for myself, I can say that there is a good and a bad. It's not all bad. Not all occultism is bad. It's just sometimes a thing is just a symbol to express an experience or a situation or a growth in spirituality. It doesn't mean which way it's going. It just means that situation. So sometimes, I think maybe it's maybe something we need to talk about more. I don't know if people aren't, if people are telling me they're confused. But I do think, there is positive magic. Yes, of course. I do believe in that. I'm not saying you need to go make rituals and ceremonies for all that stuff. No, you don't need to do all that, I don't think. But I do believe that there is, positive occultism and positive magic, believe it or not.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at take Christianity, the fact of even saying a prayer, that in itself is magic.
Mm-hmm.
You're casting a spell, essentially. And people don't want to look at it that way, but it's the truth. And, like you say, and, hell, we even do it when we're writing a letter. You're spelling. They're all named. It's named that for a reason. So, let's get into it. Let's debunk some of this stuff and enlighten me and all of our listeners to because I know there's times I've thought about questions, and then after listening to an episode or something of the Occult Rejects or yours, Patriot, that I'm like, oh, okay, that answers the question. I don't need to reach out. So I don't know. I personally don't have I don't have questions written down, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But,
I got you.
I'm sure they'll come up, but it always just fascinates me anytime the two of you are together and, the stuff that just comes out of your guys' mouth on truth bomb after truth bomb and just eye opening shit. It's awesome.
Thank you.
I walk away with my third eye wide the fuck awake.
Well, I honestly think the fact that people perceive magic or occultism in a negative light is probably because all that you ever hear about it is something that's negative. And maybe we don't do the best part of explaining some of the positive sides of it because we're going after some of these dark magicians and occultists that are fucking up society. So, that's more our aim, is exposing the negative side of it. So we don't ever want to give this one-sided opinion of magic. We're just showing you the people who know the systems, how they operate, and how they're using it against everyone. So maybe it'd be great to do a series on, some positive magic in the future. The thing is that when you think of magic, it has to, it can't be in the traditional way that we think of it as this is like Harry Potter, Hogwarts bullshit. It's a set of laws. These are laws that are built into the just the fabric of the way that things are. No different than electricity. You know, it's like I say before, if you were to put your finger in a socket and you get shocked, right, or someone zaps you with a taser, it doesn't mean that electricity is inherently evil. It just means that it was used for the wrong purpose, and that you have to entertain magic the same way that you do electricity, because it can be used for good or bad.
That's a really good way
very
to put
well
it.
said.
I mean, I was thinking before, like, magic could be the handcuffs that you could put on yourself, or it could be taking them off. You know, you could,
Well, you guys hit on it on episode 2 of the Scarlet Whore, you know, with the whole George Floyd at the end of that episode, about the ritual that could have been taking place with the 2 pillars and the dove and what have you. And I never would have thought about looking at it that way. And it's like, holy fuck. I mean, wow. You know what I mean? Like, most people are like, oh, the Super Bowl halftime, that, you know, that's a magic ritual and da 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 da. And a lot of people know about that. But in everyday things, even when, I'm sure if you guys watched a Senate floor and them trying to pass a bill or something, anything like that, I'm sure there are certain things that these high parasitic elites are using some form of ritual magic to get things done. And that's maybe that's just me thinking way out there, but I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't the case.
Oh, I've seen them. I mean, my opinion, I've seen people like do specific hand signs.
Mm-hmm.
When people happen to be looking a certain way, and then all of a sudden,
Well, Trump used to do that spear sign or whatever. They always thought it was like the spear. Or,
that thing,
almost,
like his hand like that.
Yeah,
that's actually what I was talking about, but not him. It was somebody, I think, sitting behind McConnell. Maybe one day he was talking, and the dude does that behind him when he turns around and looks. And I really do believe. I mean, that shit's. I think that stems
his whole
back to
face changed and everything. Like, he was just like, oh shit, I got to get back in line. And
even if you take a look at the songs that Trump plays before his rallies, there's a really interesting subject to check out, because the list of songs is really creepy. They all have a specific message to them. And like we covered on the Scarlet Whore episode 5, so much of magic is vibration and sound that can be used to manipulate people, and they don't even realize it. But I would definitely say that if you really want to sniff out when magic is being used, watch when there are crazy, terrible, traumatic events. Things like the Twin Towers, things like the Las Vegas shooting, right? Mm-hmm. The guy mowed down all of those people. Anything that can create trauma and fear is most likely based on some type of magic ritual, because then they use that energy that's produced from it. So take example of George Floyd. After that happened, that ritual happened, you had an entire summer of chaos, right? So it's this magic ritual that's being done, and then it gets a reaction from the public, and then the public, they don't even realize why they're doing certain things that they're doing, because they're even unaware that they're under a spell or a ritual.
That was the only virus going around at the time, was an infection of their fucking brains.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That was spreading like a fucking virus.
Yeah, but they were just peaceful protesters, so there was no harm, no foul.
Oh, January 6th, that was a huge one.
Yeah.
I mean, we broke that down in a whole little mini episode in itself, because we pointed out the fact that, what is it? One guy that was up, he was doing an actual ritual while he was up on that podium. So it's nutty, because people don't see it, and it's just Can
you break that down a little bit? Because I believe you covered that in the Quetzalcoatl the series, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember hearing you guys speak about that, but I don't think you guys ever broke down exactly what he was doing, audio wise. The ritual that he was doing, because I've seen the video, but for somebody that doesn't understand what's going on, what are some things to look for? Like, obviously the way he's dressed, and you said the stuff he might have been saying, but is there more to it?
You know what's funny? I would probably really have to go back and look at it because it was so long ago. I don't mean to put you on the spot. Unfortunately, no. The thing is that the stuff that I can remember that I could answer was like stuff that you already pointed out. You understood. One, his clothing. That I think was actually, I can't remember. Maybe Lux remembers the ritual that he showed me. It even had like little drawings in there of like the outfit. It was pretty much the same exact fucking thing he was wearing.
Mm-hmm.
I think we show that in the episode when we covered it, and believe it or not, his tattoos. I don't know if the guy really fucking understood magic at all, if he was, if he was just being used, or if he really does. But that one triangle tattoo he has on does, if you truly understand what that symbol means, it's a pretty powerful one. And if he understood that, then I definitely think that guy was involved. That shows right there. He was fucking around with something.
Right. And on the fact that he goes by Q Shaman. Shamans are stupid. That's the old word for, magician or magic one or healer or, anything like that,
A lot of times.
Yeah, the interview that he just did with it's a huge channel on YouTube. They just did an interview with him because he's apparently in jail. It was all gas and no brakes. That channel interviewed him on a phone call from jail. And I can tell you, this dude definitely knows way more about the occult than we think that he does, because you can just hear the terms that he's using, the people that he's like listing as being inspirations for, why he became a shaman, because he actually self-proclaims himself to be that. So, but he was doing, when he was up there on the podium, that's sort of like, it's a representation of a transition of power, because it was the invocation of a war god. I can't remember the specific one, but even down to the physical clothes that he was wearing are required for that ritual. That ritual is supposed to be done in a very boisterous way. And you had all of the people who were running in fear out, right, of the House of Reps. And then he gets up on the podium, and now he is invocating this from the podium, which is showing that, sort of the old order, the old way is gone. And now this is the invocation of a new order, a new aeon, new age. So even the face paint, the red and blue, talking about they
even matched
two sides of the
tree on his face. Yeah.
The tree of life. Right. I mean,
and using the podium as an altar.
Yeah,
exactly.
He even had, and I think this even I think goes along with Coke, believe it or not. He had it was like a little megaphone that was red and white. A lot of times you'll see that in stuff, and that, to me, that's showing like Kether and then Gabora, and that is the red sphere would be for war and chaos as well. He even had a megaphone with him that was red and white. I mean,
know who else
normally
had a
that's
megaphone?
some fucked up shit. So, but I'm also thinking, Coke bottles, Coke's shitty for you, and it's got a red and white label. So,
you know who else had a red and white megaphone? George Bush at the 9/11.
Really?
Right after 9/11. Remember when he was on the megaphone? I'm almost certain it was red and white.
Yep.
Yeah, but I
even
think that megaphone.
Before that, when he was in the school, that was definitely a
You're breaking up, Lux.
Yep.
We're hitting too close. We're getting too close to the truth. Zoomy doesn't like it.
I tell you, I swear to God, every time that it gets unstable, it's when him and I are on. This never happens. Any other time, my wife, she does a lot of work from home, and she has to be very dependent on a high-speed connection because of the nature of her work. Nothing happens. The moment I get on with him, stuff starts to get crazy.
I actually got my internet fixed a few days ago, so I know it's not me.
My wife. Do you guys have crystals that you can put around your stuff?
I've used Faraday cloth, believe it or not.
Okay.
I do.
Well, you can't see me right now, but I'm actually naked in a loincloth with buffalo horns.
Nice.
He's dressed up like the Q shaman right now.
Oh, that makes my ass wet.
I got one ass cheek is red, the other ass cheek is blue. So I just, do it that way.
But I mean,
now, did you paint the starfish white for the single star? All right.
Right, exactly.
And now, see, like, this is like a perfect example of how we can use this ritual, what we think is a ritual. I mean, first off, I even wanted to say, how do we even know those buildings aren't already built specifically for shit like that? For
them to come down, you mean?
Well, I'm saying, like, how do you know that room isn't set up to where things are facing certain directions? And how do you know it hasn't already been consecrated to be like a fucking temple, or you know what I'm saying? It's,
yeah.
That shit could be set up
January 6th.
Yeah, I mean, but what I'm saying is like the buildings themselves. Like, how do we know? We have no idea.
I'm sure
what the
they
fuck
are
in those things. They're gigantic, and we see one little fucking part of it, and we think we know what the whole place looks like. No, I mean,
Granted, in my opinion, the Freemasons are kind of low on the totem pole, but they're up there.
Yeah.
But DC was designed by Freemasons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The whole layout of every building, so why wouldn't certain rooms face a certain direction, or, these guys think of shit like that. Whereas me as a common guy, I wouldn't know the first thing on how to do any of that.
Right.
Oh, but what I was getting at, I think that's a perfect example of bad magic. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I guess to try to like stay on that a little bit to try to show like, I guess, differences, a lot of things that me and Lux cover, like we covered this and we've covered other things with secret societies because of the fucked up shit that they do. But a lot of times when we're pointing out all these symbols and all these things and showing you how bad they are, it's normally because they are always kind of very specific to what the symbol means. Like, I know I said earlier that some of them can be very broad, but some of them like are only going to be for a specific part of the tree, a specific area of the tree. And when you get a lot of the same imagery going on for the same group or the same person or same show or same secret society, that can start to tell you what their ideology might be. That could start to tell you what they stand for. It's like it's almost like a stamp or something. I mean, even with my logo. Yeah. I mean, my logo
look at mine.
Yeah, well, my logo to me is, Lux put the red and the blue in there, just like the Tree of Life. And to me, that is the brain and the electricity, like, syncing up in the middle like it should. But, like, that's what I'm about, is trying to let people know that is fucking possible. So that's why I use this as a logo. Same reason these fucking secret societies use certain fucking things. It's to make a statement and tell you what they're about. And that's totally different. You know what I'm saying?
Now, here we'll do it live, right on the air. There's 9 eyeballs right here in this whole thing. What would that, from a standpoint, from you, how would you take my logo? Because to me, I know where it came from, but to common Joe, they'd be like, dude, that's occultic as shit.
Well, see, the problem is that I also know who you are, kind of. If I didn't know you and I looked at that, I see 2 different things in that. So, it's kind of hard to explain. One would be bad, and I guess one would be good. Then that's what I'm getting at. Like, so many things can have... It even depends on what your intentions are, what you're even stating that you're doing or stating that you are. Like, with the 9, I would automatically associate the moon with that. Okay. And then you have a triangle pointing down. I would associate with taking something maybe from the abyss and bringing it in. So I would say maybe that symbol is showing you the third eye may be closed, or you could say that, it'd be the opposite, that you opened it up because you are no longer controlled by the moon anymore. You know what I'm saying? It really, a lot of this stuff can come down to what the person's intentions was. But when you start to see the same common thread constantly within someone's shit, you can't deny it at that point. You're obviously making a fucking statement.
Right. And to the person, she's a very beautiful person who did create my logo. I love it, and I'm never going to change it because I know it came from a good heart, and very thankful and very blessed, and just the synchronicities that lined up to the fact that she used to work with the artist that does Tool's cover album art, Alex Gray, you know, and it was just a random reach, you know, started following me. Hey, I like your art. You want to design a logo? I kind of like Tool and this and that. Oh, funny thing is blah, 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 blah. And here we are. Now I have a logo, and she's a very, she's going to come on the show eventually. So I'm
see, I would like to even talk to her, because even that little, you know, you see that moon that's like lying, it's, you know, on the bottom instead of the side. You know, even from my experience when I've talked about like the black sun or whatever, that's exactly how it starts to open up that way. Now, I know a lot of people just have been used to seeing that symbol like that and probably have no idea why. It's just, you know, what's on top of goddesses' heads. It means the moon. But right. I would be interested to actually talking to her and knowing, like, you know, that this is what I'm getting at. She could actually be somehow referencing the black sun right there.
Yeah.
But I would have no idea. But then that would tell me this lady actually understands fucking magic if she really knows what that little symbol right there means. If it means the same thing to her that it means to me, then that could totally change everything, because now I'm like, all right, this person knows what they're fucking talking about. Now I really have to look at this fucking logo. It can be very hard, but stuff like that, you know, can be taken, you know, that symbol can be seen different ways from different people.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm not going to stop listening to Tool. You had the Hitchhiker on, breaking it down, and that opened my eyes. I was like, finally, someone is breaking down Tool in a way that I can understand, and going through the lyrics, because take 46 and 2, you know, I never really knew a lot about it. I knew he was, you know, my shadow coming through, you know, I didn't know what shadow work was until you kind of broke it down about, you know, Carl Jung and doing shadow work. And then you had your last guest on, what was it?
Oh, Taylor.
Your newest episode. Yeah. And talking about shadow work, and
she's really good for that. She's really good for that.
I always thought that was kind of dark, but she brings it into a light that, no, it's just basically examining yourself and admitting that you're a piece of shit and working on yourself and letting go of your ego, you know, and that can be used in a good way. And
that's
like with magic, it can be used in a bad way.
Right. Because I mean, when I look at the logo, I see fire, you know, so that would be a lot of, generally that would be a male energy. And you've got the 9, which would be Yesod on the tree of life, right above Malkuth. So it's Malkuth would be earth, where, you know, where we are, and Yesod right above it. So it'd be like you pulling a male energy. You've also got the blue, which would coincide with Chakma, and it could represent something very positive because of those things, depending on your intent. The way that magic works is they're sort of like each symbol is a piece of a puzzle, and you can use that piece with another piece, and depending on your intent can either be very positive or very negative. So symbology is nutty because it's tools, archetypes that you need to accomplish whatever your will is or what you want to get done. So,
and you know what I would even like to just throw in here and add real quick, Ghost? I would never even probably, you know, I'll be totally honest with you. I mean, I've had some fans actually point out people's logos that I've had on my show, and I was just like, oh, I didn't see that. But half the time I don't fucking pay attention, because like most people don't even understand it anyway. You know what I'm saying? And like, right. so
I don't understand
why, like, and what I was gonna get at, it's just your logo. You're not selling clothes. You don't have fucking multiple fucking logos for different types of shows or you know, this and that with the same. I'm only seeing it on your logo, and that's it. I'm not seeing it 10 other fucking places. That's when me or Lux or, you know, the Occult Rejects, that's when we start thinking, oh, we have something here. If you were to look at our shit, we don't go off of by one fucking picture. It's a constant repetitive neither theme or by their actions as well that shows you what the thing is really about.
Yeah, what the intent is for, right?
Yes.
Right. It's like, think about it like parts on a car. Symbology is like parts on a car. You know, you got your tires, you got your engine, you got your transmission, you know, and each one of those has to come together for something to work. It's the same way that magic is, but you could use that car to do something positive or you could use it to do something really negative. But nonetheless, you still need those parts for anything to work.
Right. And I totally get it. People could look at, this in a negative way. I look at it in a positive way. Like you pointed out in the beginning, I would have never thought to ask you why you're wearing a checkered hat, but I get the checkered symbolism to a degree, but there's much more into it that I don't even understand. I know it has to do, the checkered pattern with Freemasonry uses it a lot, and but I'm not well versed in, I know a little about a lot, and I don't know a lot about a little. And that's where you guys are good at knowing a lot about your niche,
exactly.
And like I said, he's wearing a checkered hat, whoop-de-doo, but you're wearing it obviously to
I was going to wear my 3D glasses too, and I forgot to grab it before I came
No,
on.
you should have.
Well,
just so you don't break out that hood.
And you know what? I'll explain it. The 3D glasses are the fucking spheres on the tree. And I do think to an extent, if you can kind of lay that tree out, I think in certain areas of the body where maybe change is going on, I do think they might fit in this area for sure.
Right.
So I would wear those for that. And the checkered thing, well, yes, I guess because of the Freemason floors, but I mean, that's the white pillar, the black pillar, the left and right. And to me, I'm wearing it, and the way it falls on my head, it's before my eyes. To me, This is the black and white TV that I was in prior, and then once I cross my eyes, this is when I'm in the fucking 3D matrix now that's in color. Just like WandaVision, how it started off in black and white, and now it's in color. That's, to me, that's what I'm saying. Who the fuck would get that idea for me wearing this hat unless you ask questions? Right. And then you see how occultists think. And then you learn how other ones act. This is the shit people should be asking us. Silly, stupid shit like this. But
here's the thing. And even me to an extent,
you don't even think anything of it sometimes.
No, because I'm kind of asleep to it because I don't know enough about it. And, you're wearing a bucket hat and it's checkered. Okay, cool. All right. But now having asked the question, now I know the meaning behind it, but I would have never thought to ask that question.
Who would ever think a checkered hat would be that deep of an answer?
Right.
For real.
Right. Or because look back in the day, the checkered, like Vans or whatever. Was it Run DMC that made them famous?
I think
maybe
so.
they.
I mean, who was there? There's some rap band that started Kangol hats, and that shit starts with the K. I mean, come on. I don't know. I mean, I understand, whatever. Instead of king, it could be Kang. I don't know. It's like a play on words, and it's just, I mean, I own hats like that because to me, I think that hat in itself is even trying to make an occult statement, that style of hat, believe it or not. So I own hats like that.
Right.
And then think about how much it could affect us, because even though if we're unaware of the symbolism and somebody's trying to do some type of ritual, take 9/11, for example. You got two towers symbolizing the left pillar on the tree of life and the right pillar on the tree of life. It's two very, very, in the occult world, those two pillars are foundational. Pretty much every magical group, doesn't matter if it's the Order of Nine Angles, Golden Dawn, OTO, every single Masons, they all recognize the two pillars, right? You can see it in all.
They'll sometimes give it different names, but they all have their own way of recognizing that shit. They do.
Right. And when you see these two towers fall, not only is that referenced in the tarot deck by usually chaos, but you have both of the towers falling, which are pretty much describing the two pillars on the tree of life. It's insinuating, ushering in a new age, a new aeon. The old order is gone, right? It's a new world order, because collapsing those pillars it's symbolic for getting rid of any type of structure, total chaos. So if you're just watching it, you would think, oh my God, it's just two towers that are falling. Oh, holy shit. But in reality, it's much deeper than that. And it affects us on a subliminal one. Yeah.
And it's funny you bring in tarot. I actually, this past weekend, got my first tarot deck. And there's a little story behind it. There's a holistic healing shop that just opened in the town next to, across the river from me and what have you. And I was talking to my wife about it, and she's like, yeah, we can go over. Well, she didn't want to go in or whatever. And, which is fine. Normally she would, but just, she didn't feel like it. And me kind of thinking maybe she was kind of testing me to see where I'm at in my journey in life in looking into some of this stuff, because she's a massage therapist. She doesn't practice it anymore, but she went to the School of Healing Arts. So they played with, crystals, or not played, but, touched crystals. Her teacher was a Reiki master and what have you. So we're driving over there, and I turn and I'm like, oh, I think they're closed. She's like, no, the lights are on. I was like, oh, okay. Pop some money in the parking meter, walk up, open the door, and the lady gets like wide-eyed, and her ended up being her husband was standing there, and she's like, can I help you? I'm like, oh, yeah, I was just coming in to see what you have. And she's like, well, we're closed. I was like, oh, okay, no problem. I'll leave. I'll come back when you're open. She's like, no, you're here. And I was like, okay, well, long story short, start talking to her. And next thing you know, I'm in there for probably about 40 minutes, and I've already talked to her on how she got into, her journey, and would you be willing to come on my podcast to talk? And I left there with my black tourmaline crystal and a tarot deck, and the look on her face when I said, yeah, do you have tarot? And she's like, well, what kind of deck are you looking for? I said, well, my buddy, he recommended that I get the Golden Dawn deck. And she went, what? That's a little dark. Are you sure you want to start with something like that? I was like, I don't know. What would you recommend? And so she gave me like a very beginner's guide, to the deck of tarot. And I'm new to it, so I got to learn it. But it was a neat, the whole energy around it. It was like it was meant to be. Even though they were closed, still let me in there for 40 minutes. Talked about her journey, and she picked up that I was an empath before I did. Here she was a spirit medium, and like it was a wild experience. And I came back out and I told my wife about it, and she goes, you have grown. You've come a long way. And I was just like, wow, all right. And then here, and no lie, me and my ex never could have a good conversation. It was always anxiety filled, can't stand to talk to you, this, that. I'm driving back from a delivery yesterday, and it was the first thing I told my wife when I came in. The ex is calling, so I pick up. I said, hang on, let me pull over. I can't talk and drive at the same time. So I pull over. Next thing you know, an hour and a half went by, and we had a good conversation. It was about our daughter and what have you, and stuff that's going on. And I mean, nothing bad, nothing drug related or anything. Just she's just in a odd place right now. But we had a wonderful conversation, and like at the end of it, she was just like, I never expected you or expected to have a conversation like this. And I was like, I didn't either. I said, I'm just in a different place right now. And spiritually, I get it. She's a huge Christian, born again. I said, I believe in a creator. There's certain parts of the Bible I just don't agree with. And that's a whole long other story, but I'm trying to vibe on this higher energy level to receive good energy back, because I know being an asshole in the past didn't get me very far. I mean, it got me places, but you know what I mean? All it did was push people away. And I think being in the podcast game has brought me into a new realm where I'm not scared to talk to people anymore and am willing to have all these conversations like we're having. And enough about me. Let's get back into Magick. And, you know, it was just, I don't know. It's anyway.
very, very wild to me.
Sorry.
Very wild to me that happened, that it happened in that way to obtain your tarot deck. Because traditionally, I mean, even the Golden Dawn will say that you're not supposed to necessarily go and just buy your first tarot. It's supposed to be gifted to you in some way. And the tarot, there's a lot of misconceptions around tarot, and people think that it's sort of this really fake thing. And so much of that is brainwashing just because of the things that we saw on television in the 2000s. People, hey, call me up 1-800-Miss Cleo and I'll do your tarot reading live. Like things like that.
And,
but
Lux, honestly, that's where I was. I thought tarot was bad juju. And New York, you know this. I talked to you about that.
Oh, yeah, you did.
And then after hearing more about it, I was like, no, that's not bad juju shit at all.
No, I honestly think all of that is all those cards are telling you something that's going on within yourself that everybody can relate to if you understand what you're looking at. You should just meditate. Then you should look at those cards. I mean, you can read to see maybe a little bit of an explanation of what it means and meditate on that, actually. And that's probably about it. How does that, how do I find that within myself at some point in my life? Can I see this, meaning something or matching up with something? And eventually your ideas will grow. But I think it's really more of looking at those cards and looking inward instead of outward.
Yeah. And Lux, like you said, I was under the impression that, you needed to be gifted a deck. And I talked to Amy.
In a way that you were, though, almost, because this lady was like, hey,
yeah,
let me
even
help
though
you.
I did pay for it, but yeah, she did let me in after hours.
Right. Well, not only that, but you were going to go in for a specific deck and you didn't get that deck. And she was like, let me help you. I'm going to show you a different alternative. And in that way, by suggesting that's gifting in itself, even though.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
Right.
You definitely didn't get what you went for.
Dude, I could talk to you guys for fucking 24 hours straight because I didn't even look at it that way. I was just like, oh, wow, she let me in. But yeah, in a sense, she did gift it. And then I was talking with Amy D from the Gold Pill and podcast. And I was like, because I was under the assumption, is it better to be gifted one? She's like, no, not necessarily. That's kind of like hype. In a sense, it is good if someone gifts a deck to you, obviously, but now having you say this, yeah, I was gifted a deck, and yeah, wow, you just blew my mind.
Yeah, sometimes not all gifts don't have to be monetarily or physical. Those gifts could be just a suggestion to point you in the direction that you needed the most, because maybe you would have gotten that other deck. You would have looked at it and maybe it was too complicated or something, and you would have just never looked at it again. But by that suggestion, now you have the deck that you really needed because this was the gift or suggestion from this person.
Unfucking real. Wow.
It's pretty cool.
And again, I give you the occult rejects for a reason.
It's like you take a look at for the Golden Dawn, at least, the Golden Dawn stressed over and over and over again how important that tarot was. And it's been changed a lot over the years. I will say that there are a lot of decks that are out there that are not authentic, in the sense that a lot of people will illustrate something and then they'll put it out and they'll just say, oh, here's a tarot deck, my take. But in reality, I would say it's much more of a science. And like, for example, it's all based on Hebrew letters. The entire tarot is based on Hebrew letters and the meaning of those letters in Hebrew. There are 22 cards in the major arcana, and there are 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, each one representing an archetype, personality traits, path on the tree. It's honestly, it's beautiful to look at, because however that system was developed and it was adopted by a lot of different cultures, Egyptians, whatever, it's incredible to see that somebody was able to lay out, or a group of people, the complexity that is tarot. So
yeah, it makes sense. Like I can't wait to dive in and learn more about it. And because I hear you guys talk about the Tree of Life all the time, and you bring up tarot, and that's kind of what got me more looking into it. And that happened last Saturday. So here we are, and now we're talking about it, and I'm getting my mind blown on.
Yeah, you could even look up
on a different thing.
You could even look them up online on how to how they fall on the Tree of Life. There's a website that I use for that sometimes. Like if I can't remember offhand, really where it's supposed to go, and they'll give you decent explanations too. I mean, there's some sites out there when it comes to tarot. I mean, they're really telling you a lot. It's just most people don't understand it or how to look at what they're saying.
No, and I watched a few YouTube videos on it, and I was just like, oh, wow, this is awesome. Cool. Can't wait to dig into it. And now I really can't wait to dig into it.
Yeah, I think if you use those cards, going by what the book tells you, what the suggested normal thing is, if you were to look it up online and associate it with the Kabbalah, I think that's when you can really start to make a lot of connections spiritually, or within. If you start looking at it, together as I think that they were meant to be.
Yeah. And, one of the most important laws, I would say most important laws of natural law or occultism is the law of attraction. And one thing that I was always really told to do with the cards, again, because in the Golden Dawn, there was solid information. It was the way that it was being manipulated is why I left. But they would always focus on taking one card. So you shuffle your deck, and you are concentrating the entire time while the deck is in your hand, right? To retrieve the card from the deck that you really think is important to your life at the time. And you shuffle and you shuffle and you shuffle. It doesn't matter if it takes 2 minutes or 10. And whenever the thought or the feeling within your mind says to stop, and pull the card that your hand is most attracted to the most. And you'll feel it after, it doesn't take long, but there's this feeling of stop. And for example, the Hermit card has always been really important for my tarot.
Oh my God, that's so funny you bring the Hermit up, because when I had the gold pill on, I definitely identify with the Hermit very well, because Meredith did an astrology thing on me, and she's like, you could totally be alone and not worry about anything. And I was like, oh dude, I totally give me some basic tools, put me in the middle of the woods, nobody around, I'll survive. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that's heaven. And but at the same time, I do crave a few select people around me. So, and now you're bringing it up again with you. And I'm just like, holy fuck.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then just shuffle through that deck and find that card that just, you have that feeling, and take a day, take a week, and whatever that card is that comes up, just really focus on its meaning, dig deep, try and find a bunch of resources that you can to figure out, what does that card mean? What does it mean to me? Meditate on it. I would even sleep with a card underneath of my pillow some nights,
Oh, wow.
So, and you know what I would like to add to that too, is that if you just happen to be glancing at it, after you've been meditating for a while, or this little tiny silly fucking idea pops up in your head, and you're like, nah, that'd be fucking too easy. Sometimes that might actually be the right answer. It's just that we've been so programmed to say that's fucking crazy.
Right.
But sometimes if you entertain those little fucking thoughts that we quickly push the fuck out of our head, just examine it for a little bit more. Maybe we'll see. Okay, this card actually speaks to me now. Thinking of it this way. And
like speaking of cards, the first night that I had it, I even texted you, Patriot. I drew the 5 of Cups randomly 4 times, 4 separate times, right side up, like I don't know what that means. Like by looking at the card, I mean, to me, it's almost like, bad shit. Because like I even went out to my wife. I'm like, is there something you want to tell me? Because like, it's pretty much saying that like we're not going to have a relationship anymore, and this, that, and the third. And she's like, no, why? None of that's ever crossed my mind.
It could be an indication of something. A lot of times, even with the certain descriptions that are included in like the deck of cards, sometimes I've noticed that they're not exactly correct. And if you compare one deck to another, they might not even say the same thing.
Okay.
But what I would say is, definitely if you pulled that card a bunch of times, I would say that's more telling you about something internally. It would correspond to Kabura, severity, something in your life.
Or maybe my past.
Well, did you say the 4 of Cups or the 5 of Cups?
5 of Cups.
Oh, fuck.
5.
I see. I thought you said 4, and I'm like thinking in my head about Chesshead, and I'm like, well, that's really not that bad of a spot to land on.
No.
It's a totally different.
No.
Well, yeah. That could be very very emotional. That would, to me, that would be like a Scorpio of pulling up the 5 of Cups for
the reading on the card says grief, loss, many regrets, setbacks, loss of a relationship, friend, or valued possession, disappointment in love and friendship, end of a marriage or love relationship. You have strength and spirit to endure, hope for better future. Choose a creative solution to your problems. This is a temporary period and will pass. So I was like, fuck, is my wife fixing to fucking leave me? Like our anniversary's today. And like what's going on? And she's like, no, I'm not. Why would I even randomly, we've been together 14 fucking years. Why would I want to leave you now? If I would have wanted to leave your retarded ass, I would have done it years ago. It's like, okay, just asking.
And not to get too deep, because I don't want to, to perceive anything negative, but to me, that would assume that maybe even the reason why that you went to ask her is because of the description of the card. There could be some type of maybe insecurity or worry about there being loss with love, or loss of someone who is affectionate. So it could like show a trend of throughout your life that you've had a lot of these events that have happened where there are negative effects of.
They did. And Meredith pointed that out when she was giving me the astrology region. She's like, you've went through a lot of ass whoopings in relationships. And I'm like, fuck. Every one of them. I said, even the beginning of my marriage, I said, now we're good. Every relationship has an argument, but I went through some ass whoopings, in the beginning, and I even told her, I said, fuck, for the first year, every Monday she was breaking up with me, and trying to find a way to leave or, just not make things work. And so, there's always that fear because to me, with my wife, like I finally found the perfect match for my retarded ass. And like, I don't want her to leave. You know what I mean? Like I genuinely love her with everything I have. And I've never felt that way with anybody before. So, so that maybe the card was speaking on my past and,
what I was going to say?
Who knows?
I was going to say my take on it with that card. With that sphere, I think at some point you can kind of go. I mean, all of them I think have a mundane or physical story, and then more of like a mind or a spiritual story. But with the 5 of Cups, I was going to say I think it would be more mental, more emotional because of the whole water thing, and then because I think if it was more materialistic or more of this world, it would have been like the Pentacles, but the Cups I think could be more of like the mind. Okay. But, sometimes, and this is how, like, because of my experiences, sometimes I can read things differently, and that's how it makes more sense to me. Sometimes when you might be reading like loss of a relationship, loss of marriage, it may not even be so much of still the physical world. It could be talking about mindsets, thoughts, belief systems. You know, we are married. We are in relationships with ideas and actions and rituals that we do all day that we don't even realize. You know
and
what I'm
that
saying?
makes sense.
You know, and sometimes breaking those things up or losing the negative ones is the representation of going up the tree spiritually. You know, so like maybe you have a good relationship now because you are finally able to give up the bullshit that you were holding on to from the past ones. And you're able to kind of free yourself and be happier now.
Yeah,
you know?
That makes sense.
Who the fuck knows?
And I'm the type of person, like when I read that, I take it for face value. And with the meaning behind tarot, I know you have to look at it from multiple angles, just like what you're saying. Like, okay, maybe it's not a physical marriage. Maybe it was a marriage to a thought process or marriage to a certain routine that you do. I mean, it could be anything, you know, like you said, we're married to a lot of different things in our daily life. And, you know,
I mean, when you start looking at occultism and when you start really understanding that, like we covered the Scarlet Whore, and this is how I'm going to get at how some things I believe can be taken different ways. You know, we went along how like the sphere is more of the symbol of like the feminine energy keeping us in form. I think, you know, the rings of Saturn are representative of that. I think your wedding rings, earrings, I think rings are all come from that idea of us being married or wed into this matrix. You know, the wedding ring is just, this is a way of representing it even more in the physical way. You know, being married to this world, you have chose now someone that is important enough to you that you're going to spend the rest of your life with and probably give up some of your will in order to do it. You are going to marry yourself to that idea, and that's going to keep you in the matrix even fucking more. This world is so real, you just got married. You know what I'm saying? So when you look at the word, you know, being married to or wedded to, maybe as a way to explain being birthed into this world and believing it's real, you could maybe start seeing how it could be more mental instead of so much materialistic.
Gotcha.
Yeah, when me and my ex broke up years ago, I was pulling a lot of cup cards because I was still in the Golden Dawn at the time. But I was pulling a lot of cup cards, and a lot of them were sort of hinting to me that I had this repressed thought or worry that whatever relationship or something that I would get into after that would end up in chaos and trauma because it's the same thing I'd gone through over and over again. Yep. So I would pull those cards, and it was literally telling me, bro, you're never going to have something healthy or positive or good with anybody else unless you let go of this fear of loss, and that, you know, you just accept that the person that you're with, trust your instincts. If, you know, you're in love, then you're in love, and don't worry about someone betraying you or backstabbing you. And that was sort of the process that I had to go through. So I definitely relate to that a lot because, you know,
I went through that myself. I always feel like someone's going to, you know, my wife says you're the most pessimistic optimist there is, or something to that effect. Like I always look for the good, but I'm always waiting for that rug to be pulled right the fuck out of it.
Exactly.
Like I'm ready for it. Like even when we closed on this house, I'm like, nothing ever this good happens. You know,
exactly.
Without
something's gonna fuck up.
Something's gonna be fucked up,
smooth, right?
Yeah, but nothing ever happened, and I was just like, wow, this is a great feeling. I don't know how to feel about this, but now, you know, I'm very comfortable with, you know, our relationship. Obviously, we've been together for 14 years, and but man,
it's that fear of just it's something that gets programmed into your mind.
Yes.
And then the tarot is just telling you to let go of it.
Yeah. And then I can circle that back to Patriot with your guest with the shadow work. It's your ego saying, hey, motherfucker, I put those chains on you for a reason.
Taking those motherfuckers
keep them there.
Yo, for real. I forgot. I said that right, or did she say that? I don't remember.
You did.
Oh, damn. You know, believe it or not, I was trying to wait at one point to see if she'd have her own show, but I've had that taped for like almost 2 months. And eventually I put it out, but because I was trying to wait till she had her own show so that would help promote it. But I have her coming on again next week, so she's a great guest, actually.
So let's change gears a little bit. And
you know what I wanted to say just real quick.
Go ahead.
Because of the whole thing that we were talking about before, and I was like, wow, this is another perfect example, or at least of my opinion. Talking again about good magic and bad magic. Tarot. Learning how it means something to you individually, yourself. Like even how me and Lux just told you what you pulling that card that many times means. What we tell you, I mean, really shouldn't mean much of jack shit unless you really see that or feel that yourself eventually.
No, I mean,
exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Sat here and had a conversation. Yeah. Like it made sense to me what you guys were both telling.
But,
you know what I mean? Because it's like,
yeah. But what I'm getting at is that I think that is the good magic. Is when you take those cards and you look at them and you say, how is this telling me about who I am? That's the good magic. When you have those cards, you're like, let me shuffle these motherfuckers. Here's 7 cards. This means that. That means this. $50. Thanks. That's bad magic.
Yes. Very well said.
Hell yeah. Yep.
So on that note, I'm going to put a little disclaimer out there. I do have friends that do listen to this show, and I love you, and I will never not love you as a friend. But I feel you need to get off the Q train, and for good reason. And it took me a while to admit that myself. But things can only happen so many times over and over and over again where you get a nothing burger. And at the end of the day, the government is not going to come and save you from the government. And the last person that ever said that killed a lot of Jews. So having put that out there,
military is the only way.
Yeah, I love you. And, you know, we can have a conversation on anything. So other than that, let's fuck Q.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? You know, we covered that whole series, 7 fucking episodes. I mean, it could have been easily been 10, probably if we were, I guess, more open about some of the stuff we found that we were like, you know, there's some stuff we didn't touch because we really do believe like we probably could have had issues if the people came across it. But, you know, all of that bullshit that we went through, and then really just us talking about Watkins for fucking 10 minutes in the last episode should just be enough to make you question the whole fucking thing in itself.
Exactly. And your breakdown on X-22, like,
God,
I was just like,
you know, that's another thing. Like this is exactly how you get an idea of what the symbol means. Mm-hmm. Now, his logo is a mercurial sigil. He's just changed, you know, instead of the 2 dots, he's got the number 2 and the number 2. It's still got the X, got the fucking circle. Instead of the up and down, looks like, I guess, the stock market crash. It's got like a little, looks like a hockey stick, but it's like, I think it's a specific sigil or it's a Hebrew letter. I can't remember exactly, but, and then at the top, he has the Bible and there's another symbol, the same fucking spot on this mercurial sigil. That is for Mercury. Now, Mercury is good for knowledge, speech, writing, flight. It's good for transportation and a little bit of business, because it is kind of connected to chesed, which could, you know, be used for business as well. So there's a little bit of that influence from Jupiter with Mercury when it comes down to ceremonial magic. I'm just going by, like, you know, the Tree of Life.
Right.
So if you wanted to be able to talk some slick shit and make money, that's exactly the thing you would use. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have made, and I'm telling on myself, and I've said it before, I have made mercurial and Jupiter sigils together, or just mercurial sigils together, from when I had a thing at work, and I would keep it in my pocket, so I was able to talk and present whatever I was trying to do the best way I can to achieve what I was getting at. I needed to sound fucking educated. I needed to know what I was talking about, and I was doing it because I wanted there was a fucking thing going on at my job. There was like a contest kind of. And I wanted to do well, I wanted to make a little money with it too. I'll admit it, but I wasn't like fucking anybody. It was just trying to like, can I do my job better? You know what I'm saying? Right. And I do believe it worked, but I mean, that is the same exact thing that guy does himself. He's got mad fucking commercials. He sells some, I don't know, fuck bullshit powdered fucking, I don't know, whatever he's got. He's got 10 different fucking ways to send them fucking money. And he's been telling the same story for fucking years. For
about a year and a half, almost 2 years.
No, he's been around longer. We put his shit into the Wayback Machine. I did not know how long that guy's been around for. He's been around for probably like, believe it or not, I think he might have came out right before or a year before the whole Q nonsense did, or around the same time. But he wasn't. I don't know if he was calling it Q yet, but he still had the same idea as like there was some white hats doing something. But he's been going with the same. And from thing.
My standpoint, I saw X-22, and okay, I'm prior Air Force. I just thought you were playing off the F-22 before it was a fighter. It was an XY-22 or an X-22. That's where I thought he was coming from. And then after hearing your guys' show on the breakdown, I was just like, oh, fuck. I
knew I had seen that sigil somewhere too. I had seen it. It like rang a bell when I saw the sigil. Well, the emblem for X-22, and I was like, man, I've seen that somewhere. And I ended up just going through a bunch of my shit
Lux
and
actually found it. Yeah.
And then I was sent to New York Patriot. I was like, got it.
Yo, and the crazy thing is, I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, and I go in my room, I'm like, because I still have some of the, it's like, believe it or not, I'm still like, I don't even know how to get rid of these things. Do I burn them? Do I bury them? Do I just fucking, I have these talismans that I've used, and I mean, they're done. I don't carry them with me, but I do have them stashed somewhere. And I was looking at them and I'm like, I've even used this fucking thing myself. And I didn't even realize it. Looking at it, me, Lux saw it. I didn't even see it. And once he showed it to me, I was like, how the fuck did I not even see that?
Right.
Just, even people like me, you just don't even notice it sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, there was another one that that I was telling Lux. I knew for a fact, and he even said it himself. There was a show called Hive Mind where they use like a 1 instead of an I, and they push the Q shit too, and they got all this other fucking ways to get money. Their logo I have seen in like people have used that in art with a woman. Typically, it's a thelemic. The way I've seen it done, it's normally typically a thelemic kind of style where it's like the Whore of Babylon, and then it has this 7-pointed, raised star behind her head and 2 lines coming down. I've seen that, but I couldn't find it again. Like I remember seeing that stuff when I was involved in the OTO, and I knew with the sites, and it was in groups. It was probably in a group on Facebook that I remember them having that I'm not in anymore, so I couldn't remember to find the picture. But there was one night when I was in the Discord channels ended up coming down, but I was in the Rabbit Hole Discord. Can't plug them anymore. They got taken down. But they were showing this movie called The Mountain from like 1973 or maybe 78, some old shit. And I happened to put it on, and they were showing it in their chat. And I was like, yo, what the fuck is this? And I was like messaging them. And I was like, yo, this movie is occult as fuck. And they're like, yeah, that's why we put it on. Because one of the guys reached out to me. He's like, you might like this movie. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, yo, this is some wild shit. Like, I even told Lux, I was like, you got to check this movie out. This is, like, mind-blowing how, like, obvious that this stuff is. And at one point, would you know it, there's these people walking around with a fucking necklace on with that sigil.
Oh.
The same fucking one that the Hive Mind uses as their logo. From 1970-something in a fucking movie that is all fucking an occult story. You put that shit on for 5 minutes, you'll know exactly. Yeah, obviously this is. You'll know it just from watching a few minutes. Because it's not going to make any sense. It's going to seem out there. People in robes, old weird shit. That fucking logo that they use is in that movie.
Well, and
they're selling bullshit stories. So I think that tells me who they are.
And you pointed out how the bee is represented in all that. as well. And then you have certain people out there, talking about their swarm and the hive mind. And it's like, what the fuck? And then, then you pointed out how the frog was used in symbolism. And I was just like, that's Pepe, shit. And
man.
It's Pepe the Frog.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Like whoever started the whole Q thing, I mean, they tapped into a lot of fucking shit and got people hook, line, and sinker. And then, like you were saying, that fucking dude that started 8chan, 4chan, or whatever, was into kitty fucking porn, or maybe he wasn't, but allowed that to be on his site or whatever. And it's like,
well, some of his own sites, are going there. It surely makes it look like he's into it himself too.
Yeah, but yet Q's going after all the kitty porn people,
right? And if you look at how, so Cicada 3301, what in my opinion was definitely it was a psychological operation done against the American public to sort of be like a precursor to QAnon, right? It appeared on the same website that QAnon did. It had a lot of the same characteristics. Not long after that, then you do have the appearance of QAnon, and it first starts on 8chan. 8chan is owned by Jim Watkins, and he was former Air Force. He moves to Japan, and Watkins becomes the very first person ever to import Japanese pornography into the United States via the internet. Okay.
And this motherfucker's giving the Air Force a bad name.
Exactly.
Motherfucker. And I'll stab him in the throat with a pen.
And he, around this time when he moves to Japan, you get this giant influx of Japanese pornography. The interesting thing to know about Japan is that Japan did not outlaw underage pornography until 2011. Oh, so he was the one who got really right in there as soon as he could, because he's former military. He went to Japan, starts bringing all this stuff to the United States. And at the same time, the internet is very young. We're talking about the early 2000s. He has a ton of websites, NT Technology being one, Thrifty Server, Lizelle.com, BigServer.com, woohaha.com, and one called that jimisbad.com. And he's got all of these pictures, which are we were even worried about putting it on the episode because it's questionable how old some of these girls are.
Is that why most of that type of film, they blur out private parts?
It could be, yeah. Okay. It definitely could be. And, what he does is he sets up all of these different websites that are importing this pornography. Eventually he gets in trouble and he moves to the Philippines. And that is where you start to see like his really big presence on 8chan. Well, QAnon started on 8chan. Mm-hmm. And then you see that, I believe it was either Vice or HBO, but they ended up finding out that this guy who created 8chan started to have a lot of his IPs that were traced to info dumps for QAnon. So this is quoting, I believe it's HBO here, but the followers of QAnon know that the origins of the group began on 8chan and through Watkins to Nye being the founders of the group. They were able to prove this via IP. It was confirmed that one of the biggest info dumps for the group, known as QMAP, that has over 10 million unique visitors a month, came from Watkins' computer itself. And people will be like, oh, well, you can't trust HBO or any of that. Fine. But based on the research that we did, just go back and watch the episode, because it's overwhelming how much evidence it was that all of this Q stuff came from Watkins. And he's a bad dude. And the reason why he probably moved to the Philippines, I think it was New York Patriot that found this. The age of consent is...
Yeah, it was like fucking young, like 12 or 13 or some shit, maybe 14.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
That's some fucking sick shit.
Yeah, it's really young. Yeah.
And then it comes to find out that
he's
he's got pictures. Watkins has pictures with the Q shaman at the Capitol. I mean, it just goes on and on. It's nuts, but it's really undeniable that Watkins didn't have something to do with QAnon. And it leads back to one of the companies that he was associated with called Mod Squad. And Mod Squad is this group of, well, it's a company that puts out these bots, and these bots deliver information, just endlessly over the internet to Twitter, Facebook, whatever. And if you take a look at their website, it says that we would love to tell you what we did for the U.S. government. I'm quoting directly. We would love to tell you what we did for the U.S. State Department, but then, well, you know how that joke goes. We can reveal we've moderated a couple communities for exchange programs or to promote certain relations around the globe. So this is on their own website that they're talking about how they've spread certain pieces of information that's now associated with Watkins, which 8chan, this is where Q was born. It's very obvious that this was a psychological operation.
Yeah.
And where does Code Monkey Z fall into this?
Well,
because isn't that his son?
Yeah. Now this is what I was gonna say. And even I guess that's a good way to even bring him into it too. I do think. Well, I think me and Lux both think that one of them, if not, well, I think both of them, they're in one of the two. They're either, well, if you're a Shriner, regardless. But I think either they're in the Shriners or they're in the Order of Quetzalcoatl. Now, the Order of Quetzalcoatl is an inner order of the Shriners, and they both work together, which we show that in other episodes. But I do think, monkeys is used a lot as well in Shriners.
Yeah.
And even,
I just saw a Shriner commercial last night
and
after I was like,
oh, the hospital one, maybe.
Yeah.
And some of the, I know there was a Canadian group of Quetzalcoatl, and there's other ones that have had monkeys on their pins too. The whole see no evil, hear no evil, that shit. Yep. So I'm like, is that why his son uses the word monkey as well? Because that's, showing the whole Shriner and Quetzalcoatl connection, or one of the two. And I think that that's how Quetzalcoatl and Q kind of have like a connection there as well. I definitely think that one of them are involved with that order. And the big thing too in the Philippines is that is the biggest, has the most and the biggest Shriner temples as well. So it seems very convenient that this guy Watkins is in this area now after everything's happened.
And it's crazy because anytime I think of like monkeys, I always remember the monkey with the cymbals that would clap.
Yeah,
did it not? Now this could just be one of those dumb Mandela effects, but wasn't the original one wearing a fez?
Oh, you might be right.
I don't know, but and then I don't know.
I'm not even sure how to look that up.
Yeah. But I mean, you get in when you guys covered the Shriners and the Quetzalcoatl order, and I didn't even know about it. I mean, I heard about the Shriners. I remember, messaging you NY and being like, yo, I used to, deliver beer to a Shriner club basically. And you're like, they served alcohol? I'm like, yeah,
that's right. I remember you telling me about that, and I thought that was weird. Yeah.
And what better way to meet behind closed doors, kind of like the Moose Club and everything else, the Elks, the Eagles, what have you. But bringing it back to Q, people were so blindsided that they didn't even look into, like, I even remember going to QMAP, whatever, to see a new post or get new information. And then they steal their logo. Where we go one, we go all from what was the movie? White Squall.
Oh, I didn't
something
even know.
like
I
that.
thought they got that shit from fucking JFK Jr. or some shit or whoever.
Well,
Whoever's dead.
It was used in the movie White Squall, but I think JFK Jr.'s boat might have had that
or
on
like
it
had that
as
on
well.
the bell or some shit, the Liberty Bell.
Something
had
like
written
that.
on it.
Yeah. And, you know, and then, JFK Jr. still alive and JFK still alive. How the fuck is JFK still alive when he had his fucking head blown off? and you all motherfucker, like, sorry, I don't mean to call you motherfuckers, but like, the dude had his fucking head blown the fuck off by the bushes. Okay. And you're going to say he's still alive.
A flesh wound.
Sorry.
A couple stitches.
And there's something within magic itself that's called monstrea. So it's sort of like, it's a magic principle that in order for my ritual or my magic to work, I have to tell you that I'm doing it. And if you do nothing to stop it, then you're susceptible to the magic. So if I said like, oh, I'm going to do this ritual to do this to this person, and I told them about it, they did nothing, well, then karmically, I'm totally free from whatever repercussions that could happen because of my ritual, because I told you I was doing it and you didn't do anything to stop it. And I think that a lot of QAnon stuff, there was truth in there. I'm not discrediting that. I absolutely believe that the things that some of the stuff that Q was saying is true, but it's part of their responsibility to tell you what they're doing. And if you don't do anything to stop it, then you're just going to get the full weight of the ritual that they're doing.
And every me would never have known that. You know what I mean? Like, I can sit here and say, yeah, Q brought a lot of truthers together and woke some people up that were asleep. But if they were doing, this magic, and if we don't say anything, we're obviously giving our consent to go ahead and do it. But we're not awake enough to know that, and I know I'm not. And listening to you guys, I'm getting more awake. But this shit happens on a daily basis with everything. And like, you bring it back to monkeys. I remember that song that came out a year or so ago. Dance monkey all night long.
Oh God, yes, yeah.
And now I'm sitting here thinking, why is she singing about a dance monkey?
This was like something I mentioned, I think recently, and I forgot why me and Lux brought it up again. When we were covering Quetzalcoatl, there was people on like YouTube that were associated with other, there's a group of people that dress up like clowns that were into like Quetzalcoatl type stuff and just had a big internet presence in a sense. And they had a lot of fans. You start looking at people that are subscribing to each other, people that, watch each other's shit or whatever. And within those people, you start to see, certain trends and ideas and thoughts. And there was one dude that was like a follower. He subscribed to, one of these bigger channels and had his own stuff. And he was real big with this Quetzalcoatl shit. I mean, he had comics that he was drawing. He drew shit. He was making up stuff. But he was going on about how in the new Godzilla, Godzilla won. And he was making, he was referencing that we are normally King Kong, but this time we lost. The humans lost, and the beast, the feathered serpent's going to rise. And, that's what this person was getting at and was saying that movie was saying. But, I've often said to Lux, I said, that could be a way that they do, depict humans against, something else. So I said, maybe we are, King Kong. Maybe the reason why he's got that chick in his hand is maybe he's got the Scarlet Hole with him. I don't know. Maybe that's why he wins.
Right.
I have no idea. But, maybe that is true. And I could see how they're saying dance, monkey, dance. Because it's just like, yeah, we're fucking playing you now.
Yeah.
Right. And even it was, I think it was the research by Heavy, Heavy.com. they said that the whole reason why they even started the whole QAnon thing was to create sort of like an entire population of American citizens who were controlled into becoming extremists that were believing in myths. And, it exactly goes back to what you just said, dance, monkey, dance. Yeah. Making it seem as though this is organic, it's not started by the government or the CIA, whatever, and then telling people the truth. But then you see what happens with like January 6th and them creating a narrative that isn't organic, that something they controlled, and then the outcome is that now every single person in the country who believes anything that would be considered conspiracy theorist is either, a crazy person or a terrorist. So you can see how they use this stuff against us, and to create an entire different class that they can then kind of oppress or put to the side or call nuts.
And the biggest thing that everybody points to is the Bolshevik Revolution. Oh, yeah. And
Trust, how Operation Trust or some shit. Yeah.
Yeah. And how that is how Q almost mirrors that operation. And I even remember when I believed in it, people bringing that up, and I was like, that's bullshit. No, da. And then slowly I had a good friend. He designed my ghost logo and some other things for me, and it's been a really good guy and love him to death. But he slowly started waking me up to this, and finally one day he's like, when is enough is enough? When you start realizing nothing is fucking happening, how much longer do you need to believe in this? And it was like, you know what? Nothing is fucking happening. And the use of 17 and Q.
That was another thing too. All that shit just seems so fucking like people don't understand the occultism behind all this shit.
No.
Yeah, when I realized that they had gematria involved, I was like, oh, well, now I got to look at this in a completely different way. And that was like one of the parts of me being like, maybe this isn't what I thought. Like, I saw occultism in there, but I wasn't sure how deep it was, or I thought maybe I was just seeing shit other people wouldn't pick up. And then it's just quite obvious to me that once you want to start with this gematria shit and the way people decode this stuff, I'm like, this is ceremonial magic that you're fucking with now.
Yeah.
You don't even realize it.
Yeah, and there's people, even I fell for it. I was like, oh, gematria, this is neat. I didn't fully understand it, but it was like you can plug in a word, a phrase, and get several different meanings, and obviously something's going to pop up that's going to fit into your narrative.
Yeah, well, me and Lux,
I think one of the biggest things that really pissed me off about the whole thing was that they and see, this is what got us kicked off of YouTube, so I'm not going to talk about it too hard, but the goddamn information around, pizza and Gates, right? That whole thing, people, that got us kicked off of YouTube, but there was so much more information and real truth there because, New York Patriot and I researched it a lot. And I have got to say that there are tons of fishy things, weird social media that was coming from the owner of the pizza place, all this stuff. And it just got marketed as a conspiracy theory. And then, of course, it was circulated by QAnon,
and Voodoo Donut.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And there's so much more truth there than they want to tell you. But because they can say now, the media at least, that QAnon, this was totally an online conspiracy of crazy people. Now they discredit everything that was involved with anything that QAnon ever mentioned.
And then you had the people that were coming out towards the end when like HBO came out with their stuff, and there's like, no, there's Q and there's Anons. There's no such thing as QAnon.
Well,
really?
What's fucked up with that whole thing too is that you've actually, there's something that I guess I noticed it, but I never really looked at it the same way that John Bryson from We've Read the Documents. I had him on my show, and he really did put it in a good way. people don't realize actually how much they are kind of like QAnon, but of the left. Because if you do not believe that shit, you are canceled. You actually have people believing this that have put themselves into the extremist mindset now.
Yeah.
And
Right,
don't even
which was the
realize
goal.
it. You're not out there burning down buildings and acting like a fucking idiot like the left is, but you are definitely erasing people and shitting on people because they do not fucking believe your outlandish fucking ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the whole, what sticks out in my mind is when we withdrew from Afghanistan, right? And okay, those heavy jets, they didn't look real. I'll be honest, they really didn't. You know, do we have inflatable jets?
Yo, those people would have been dead by the engines.
Right. I never seen them when I was in. I mean, that was 22 years ago. But, you know, when I will say when it's supposedly taxing and all these crowds of people are running beside it, we used to have to watch safety videos every year of not getting too close to the front of a fucking turbine or a jet engine because it sucks you the fuck in. All right. And the Navy's the worst. Like they get so many sucked into the fucking intake and to watch the videos, it's morbidly kind of funny. Like your body literally stretches out like a fucking cartoon. Like your head goes in and your feet are still out here. And then all of a sudden you're in there. And it's like, these people would have been sucked. And then they're holding on to the fucking, landing gear and all this.
Yeah.
But then they're taking the number of the aircraft.
Oh, yeah.
And trying to decode that into a delta. Well, if you flip these numbers, it means this. Now, how about we just take the numbers for face value? Because why do we need to flip something? If 1.5 is 15, it's not 51.
I mean, see, this is even the whole thing when it gets down to, like, when you start seeing that, like, there's occultism within Q, I mean, you should even be questioning, why are they even calling it a delta?
Yeah.
What's delta mean? Why are they using that word to describe something?
Delta is a military operation.
Yeah, but I'm saying there could be occult shit behind that word. I mean, in itself,
Nope,
for all you
true.
know, and it may not even be, that's what I'm getting at. I mean, you have no idea what they really...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy to me because, you know, in one fell swoop with the QAnon stuff, they've been able to tell people the truth, and then the government or its, you know, agencies are able to then ostracize an entire population of people. I think a lot of it was intelligence gathering. They wanted to see who would believe what, who knew what, and then just that way you can put these people into a certain box and, you know.
And then they renamed the terrorist list.
Yeah.
And anybody that supported Trump. And now I'm kind of a believer that Trump was put there for a reason to, hey, let's see who the real patriots of this country are and support this dude. And these Q followers, well, now we know who to target when we want to fucking change the fucking system.
Right.
For real.
Because they needed to transition from terrorists overseas to terrorists here in our, and then you even see like the FBI came out at the beginning of the Biden term and said that now, suddenly after 2 decades of Islamic extremism being the number one threat to domestic United States, now it's switched suddenly, and now it's people who believe in any type of conspiracy. So they're just passing the buck, because that's what QAnon was there to do, was to set up this way to bring in people to figure out who was who, so they could label them terrorists, because they needed a new war to fight, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and now it's a domestic
because we're done
war.
overseas, so now we have to fight internally.
You know what? I think another real shitty thing that QAnon did as well, that it took a lot of stuff and tossed it all into one umbrella, though. You know, and this is really funny. And, you know, this is how it was one of the reasons why I even started questioning QAnon, is because I really do see the same thing that I saw with, I think, ceremonial magic and the OTO when it comes to sex, believe it or not. A lot of, like, we covered the Scarlet Horse series. That was 5 episodes. And by the one that's out by now, if you've listened to it, or I mean, whatever, I'm not saying anything you won't be able to hear by now. I totally say that it's not a sexual story at all. It's just using that to tell the story so you don't look at it the real way. You're going to see it completely different, and we're just going to use sex because that sounds horrible already. Right. Oh, so people are going to buy that. There is a lot of occult shit that is considered sexual only associated, with conspiracy stuff because of QAnon now. I feel like, me and Lux say all the time that pedo swirl and that triangle means other shit besides kids.
Same with the swastika. That meant something completely different before Hitler took it over.
Other stuff. And, I saw, there's a lot of stuff to do with, you'll see that symbolism, but it's really pointing to something. To me, and I said this on somebody's post recently on Instagram, they're going on about the whole spiral fucking swirl thing. And I said, it's probably easier for the public to believe that there's a couple of fucked up individuals out there that fuck with kids than to believe people are actually physically willing to die, almost to an extent, to go and have a magical effect or a magical experience to control you. Because then if you believe that, you have to question your whole reality. But if you believe that all those symbols just mean kid shit, that doesn't change the world you're in. It just makes more fucked up people. It's a lot easier to digest that and to look at it as kid shit than what it actually is really fucking saying in an occult sense. Those are all symbols for going back to the abyss, dude.
Yeah. How fucked up is it in that aspect to say, oh, well, I can normalize it because it's all about pedophilia and not something way bigger and more fucked up. Yet pedophilia is
no,
you know what I mean? But that's how these people are rationalizing with it.
No. And believe me, I'm not disregarding how fucked up that shit is.
No,
it's just that if you were to realize that people can actually, like what I'm implying that they do, if people can pull that off and that's how they control the world that we're in, that's a much bigger fucking thing that changes your whole reality.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's hard to even like think about.
They're trying every day to normalize pedophilia, and hijacking the symbols and what have you, and then doing that makes people go, oh, that's just about child sex trafficking, and it doesn't affect my life, so I don't need to worry about it. Motherfucker, what if it's not about that and it's about controlling a lot of other shit and making other fucking people either die or suffer in some fucked up way?
Yeah. Believe it or not, I think there's more times that me and Lex could probably say we've seen that symbolism, or at least equally meaning something completely different than most people think.
Yeah, and if you take a look at the track record of the CIA, right, this is not something that they have. It's not a new thing. They were, anybody out there who wants to find out more information about it, just Google the Finders. Well, who knows? Google might not lead you any actual information now, but the Finders was a group of CIA agents that were accidentally uncovered because of these like weird series of events where they happened to notice that these kids were outside of a van and they looked really malnourished and they didn't have any like knowledge of the current world. Like they didn't even know what telephones were. They didn't know what, cars were. They were, it was declassified later on that this was an operation that was taking kids and they were trafficking them around the United States. And so it's not, when we talk about like, QAnon and we talk about the Pizzagate stuff, it's not new. They've been doing this for a long time. They just want all of us to think that it's really crazy and that it doesn't exist. And in reality, they're doing it, but they're telling us that they're doing it. And then they're telling us that we're crazy for knowing that they're doing what they're doing.
But that gives, because we're giving them consent without giving them consent.
Exactly.
So therefore their ceremonial magic takes place and is conducted, because, you know, whether we would like to think that there's a lot of awake people, there's more people with their eyes closed and asleep than there are of us.
Really, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah. and it's by design.
Oh, we've been programmed to be that way since we popped out here.
Mm-hmm.
We've been attacked in multiple different ways through TV, media, drugs, food, fucking everything. You know, ideas of how to raise your kids, religion. It's where you don't have a fucking choice, man. You don't got a chance when you come into this this world.
Not at all.
You get slapped upside the head with bullshit as soon as you can understand anything.
And we've been so splintered because of the mind control.
Fractured. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been so splintered that we believed. I'm guaranteeing that right now someone will listen to this and be like, "Oh, you know, I really like QAnon or whatever. Therefore, I have to throw out everything that someone is saying." We have to learn to be able to entertain two ideas at the same time.
Yes.
It can be true that QAnon was saying real things, and it can be true that QAnon's fake, or that it was an operation for mind control to tell you what they're doing so they can just continue to keep doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
And on that note, we'll leave it there.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah. It's just, I got to get going.
No, you're good. But
that was good.
I will say,
really thank you. I had fun.
But I always have fun with you.
I like him being able to talk about other shit, you know, and actually different stuff. That was a really good time, man. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I wasn't even looking at the chat.
No, I've had people message me on StreamYard, and I didn't realize until halfway through, and I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm sorry.
No, but, yeah, and like I said, you know, I have friends that I love dearly that still kind of follow this, and I just hope you can come to a conclusion that, look, go back to free thinking. Don't let somebody else think for you and put a pre-thought into your head, because we're all smarter than that. You know what I mean? And, you know, maybe at the end of the day, we have to look into, there's ritual, sigil, and so many other type of magical stuff going on by these parasite elites that mean way more to them that we don't even see. And we need to look into that and get to the bottom of it, because every day our government does it, whether it's left or right. And every government around the world, you know, whether it's left or right in theirs, you know, overseas, it's flipped. Left is our right and right is their left. But it's two wings to the same fucking bird.
Yes, you know.
Two wings fly one bird.
Yeah.
Okay. And if government got the fuck out of the way and didn't exist, I think racism and a lot of other shit would just fucking go away, because at the end of the day, I don't give a fuck what color or what belief you have. If you're a good person, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to like you, and I will eventually accept you as a friend. And if you're a friend, I'll do anything for you because you're a good fucking person.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it's not about, you know, the left, the right, that paradigm. It doesn't exist. It's just fake to make us pick a side the same way that baseball or football has us pick a team And in reality, it's the thing that they fear the most is your free thinking.
Exactly.
That's why they spend so much money, time, and effort on figuring out a way to manipulate you. Because if you really were to figure out some of these occult principles, such as what you envision, how your will impacts the world around you, then their system comes crumbling down. So the biggest thing that they fear is you.
Yeah, and it comes down in a second. And it's all about free thinking, entertaining two things at once. And I would say, at least for the Occult Rejects, I'm sure New York Patriot would agree with this, is that don't believe us. I don't care if you believe me. Just go and research things on your own, because that's the most impactful thing that you can do to find what you really believe, is to double check everything, cross all your T's, dot all your I's, look at all these different resources. And I know it's hard right now because of how much they censor everything, but dig as hard as you can. Don't look for a savior, because you have the ability to look inside and to make that decision for yourself. You're not waiting on Trump. You're not waiting on, all these people will come save you. You're your own personal savior.
Exactly.
With your mind.
Nailed it.
Yep.
And on that note, I am so glad to have the most stupidest, fakest posers of occult knowledge on my show tonight. Like,
thank you.
Holy shit. We just made up a whole bunch of shit.
We just trolled you for 2 hours.
You guys don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
No, I just wasted 2 hours of my time to troll you for 2 hours.
Yeah. Thank you.
Fucking funny. I know. Thank you. So, I actually had a really good time. Thank you.
I did too.
A great time.
And like
Always
I said,
have a good time
once I consider you a friend, you're a friend.
Yeah.
And Lux, I hope to get to know you a little bit more. I respect your anonymity. You being anonymous. But we can. I'd love to have you guys back on to enlighten my fans or listeners or whatever you want to call them to a whole bunch of stuff, because like I said, I was a fan of both of you all before. I was honored enough to even talk to you two. And it's like, holy shit, like I have the Occult Rejects on my show right now.
Telling you they had a great time.
Here, and having a great time.
That's
just
normal
like,
fucking
what
people,
the
man.
Fuck?
It's wild, though, right? Yeah.
Because every time I ever...
together.
But every time I heard you guys on a podcast, I was like, oh, shit. This is good shit. Shit.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I respect your work. And for being posers, you do a very good job.
Yeah.
So, plug your stuff one more time. Let people know where they can get a hold of you. We'll talk a couple minutes off air, and I'll let you go.
My stuff, the NY Patriot show, is on BitChute, Rumble, Odyssey. I'm not so quick with Odyssey. Sometimes it's a week or two behind. And all, major podcasts. And I have, I think in my own stuff, I also started DJing again, and I have a couple of mixes out. My links for my DJ mixes in there as well. And Lux, nice. you can let everybody know about the Occult Rejects.
You can find us pretty much anywhere that podcasts are streamed. You can find us on Apple. You can find us on Spotify. And definitely check out our Discord server. It's incredible. We have a really group of badass people who are sharing information, and that's ultimately our goal, is that, it's not about us. We're just sharing information, and we don't know everything, and we're just as, open to listening to everybody else who has pieces of information that we don't. Absolutely. But definitely, we're trying to create a community. That's kind of the goal of everything, not to just preach at people. We want to create something where people can interact.
An
So definitely
exchangement
check
of
us out there.
ideas, you know, exchanging
Yeah.
ideas. That's all. Just keep thinking. You know?
Yeah.
Yep.
Think for yourself. Question authority.
Absolutely.
That's a straight quote from Tool. So
There you go.
on that note, we'll wrap it up there. And
Thank you.
honored, blessed, and thank you. We'll do this again. And
sure.
wow, I give you the occult rejects, and they're rejected because they don't know anything about occults and anything. So, fuck off, everybody.
Recording stopped.